4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
In the world of space exploration, one principal mission has excited many for decades: Apollo. It hit a massive milestone in science the first time it sent men to the moon, making humanity's mark in the celestial world and exploring the lunar wonders. But for over 50 years, a shocking secret has been hidden in the dark shadows of Apollo's outstanding cosmic success.
We were never able to see stars from the lunar surface or on the daylight side of the moon by eye without looking through the optics.
This profound secret has kept NASA from returning to the moon, against the public's interest and intrigue. What secret could it possibly be? Or has the moon become a forbidden adventure ground because of a strange figure or treasure astronauts saw?
Kind of rich and pretty spectacular. God, what is that there? That's Apollo. What the hell is that?
The other thing that is inside this lunar module looks like a woman, and this is the alien that they recovered from the ship.
You're about to find out. Jim Bridenstine, a former administrator of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, commonly called NASA, has recently talked about the space exploration body's delay in returning to the moon. Much to everyone's surprise, he emphasized that it is not technological or scientific challenges hindering their progress. In a phone call with reporters, he mentioned that political risks have been the main obstacle. According to him, if not for suspicious political constraints, humans would likely have set foot on the moon again and perhaps even ventured to Mars. While the desire to return to the moon is still strong, the practicalities of securing funding, getting political support, and finalizing program details add to the extensive delay. But could NASA's issues be far more than this? For quite some time now, there has been an undying desire among researchers and wealthy entrepreneurs to establish a crewed base on the moon, especially a lunar space station. This vision is not merely a fanciful idea. Instead, it has garnered support from experts who see it as the logical next step in our exploration of space. The belief that the moon could host a permanent human research station is very promising, and former astronaut Chris Hadfield has supported that motion. Many other astronauts believe this is possible, as the moon is considered space explorers' first celestial fascination. The advantages of having a lunar base go beyond its primary purpose. It is seen as a potential fuel depot for deep space missions, addressing a key logistical challenge in space exploration. The lunar base might be a platform for developing revolutionary space telescopes, unlocking new frontiers in astronomical observation and understanding. Its impact on our efforts to live on Mars is extremely big. It could provide valuable insights and technological advancements that make human habitation on Mars more feasible. Scientifically, a lunar base offers a unique opportunity to unravel long-standing mysteries about Earth and the moon's formation, enhancing our understanding of celestial bodies that have played a pivotal role in our planetary history. Moving beyond scientific goals, the idea of a lunar base also holds promise for economic development. Speculation has arisen about the possibility of a burgeoning off-world economy, with lunar space tourism emerging as a conceivable industry. This concept not only captures the imagination, but also raises questions about the commercial aspects of space exploration and human presence beyond Earth. Despite these ambitious ideas, experts stress the more mundane yet severely critical challenges. Practical impediments, financial constraints, and the need for sustained international collaboration pose tough hindrances. NASA's budget for the year 2023 was $25.4 billion, and the Biden administration is seeking an increase to $27.2 billion for the year 2024. While these numbers might seem substantial at first glance, they must be dissected across the various parts of NASA's multifaceted initiatives. the financial pie is divided among specific projects, leading to groundbreaking projects such as the James Webb Space Telescope, the Space Launch System, and extensive missions from the Sun to the edge of our solar system. Still, the combination of funding from the different government sectors shows the relative scale of NASA's financial allocation, which is pretty surprising. It has raised many eyebrows that NASA's funding isn't enough. In its defense, the United States is allocating approximately $858 billion for 2023, so it had to shorten NASA's budget. This is an apparent financial constraint NASA faces as it cannot digitalize most of its space exploration endeavors. To talk about history, a former astronaut of the Apollo 7 mission, Walter Cunningham, mentioned in 2015 that NASA used to get 4% of the federal budget in 1965. Now, in 2023, NASA's budget is only 0.5% of all the money the U.S. spends, as said in a report by the Planetary Society. This number has changed a bit between 0.4% and 1% since the 1970s, showing that not a lot of money is used for space investment. NASA's Artemis program, mainly focused on sending astronauts back to the moon, uses a big part of the budget. A report from NASA in 2021 said the Artemis program would cost $93 billion from 2012 to 2025. Comparing this to the old Apollo program from the 1960s and 1970s, it cost around $257 billion when we adjust it for today's dollar's economy. In 2015, Cunningham talked about how this space exploration project is the most expensive they have ever considered or expressed an interest in, making it hard to get political support. According to Scientific American News, he stressed the need for more money, saying just talking about it isn't enough without Congress committing more resources. Cunningham's worries went beyond needing mere conversations with the committee and focused on NASA's budget problems. He said the money given to NASA wasn't enough for big plans like going to Mars and back to the moon. Cunningham pointed out that the budget limits stopped these ambitious space goals from happening. His concern was that the lack of money was a big problem for reaching these high space exploration goals. Besides this, the government also has a hand in the delay in the corner of politics. Cunningham noted how changes in presidential leaders or Congress members' priorities affect space exploration plans. Designing and testing spacecraft for other planets takes a long time, but political leaders have short terms. For example, when the leadership tenure for a president who makes actual plans for the return to the moon to happen ends, his successor might have other plans and priorities in mind, putting the return to the moon to one side or completely discarding any plan made. President Joe Biden's plans for NASA to land astronauts on the moon show this political issue. No one is sure if Biden will still be in office when these plans happen, making things more complicated. Astronaut Scott Kelly agrees that the government needs to support space missions consistently, but history shows that presidents and Congress don't always commit for a long time. In 2004, during former President Bush's administration, NASA had to replace the retiring space shuttle and return to the moon. The Constellation program planned for moon landings with the Ares rocket and Orion spaceship. But different administrations often changed these priorities. NASA spent a massive $9 billion over 5 years on the Constellation program, designing and testing hardware for human spaceflight. But then, President Barack Obama suggested scrapping the Constellation based on a report highlighting NASA's cost challenges. This decision led to the approval of the Space Launch System rocket as an alternative. After all this happened during President Trump's time, the goals changed. The Space Launch System continued, but Trump decided not to send astronauts to an asteroid, which was Obama's plan. Instead, the focus shifted to missions to the moon and Mars. Trump aimed for the Artemis program to land astronauts on the moon by 2024. NASA's costly projects faced frequent changes, leading to many cancellations. This caused a massive loss of about $20 billion and significant delays. Surprisingly, President Biden broke the pattern of changing priorities in space exploration by keeping Trump's commitment to the Artemis program. He also continued supporting the Space Force, unlike previous shifts in focus. In 2015, astronaut Buzz Aldrin told Congress about the crucial role of government commitment in lunar exploration. He said the decision to return to the moon should come from Capitol Hill. Aldrin highlighted that the responsibility depends on the will of the American people, whose votes influence political decisions and priorities. Despite these government efforts, people have generally shown limited interest in lunar exploration. Even when Aldrin and Neil Armstrong walked on the moon during the Apollo program, only 53% of Americans thought it was worth the money. So that explains why the monetary and public perception support for Apollo was below 50% for most of the time. A recent 2023 Pew Research poll shows that while most Americans think NASA should lead space exploration, only 12% of the 10,329 surveyed think human lunar missions are a top priority. People are not much more excited about crewed Mars exploration, with only 11% considering it a NASA priority. In contrast, 60% of people think it's important for NASA to look for potential asteroid threats in the sky. Before we reveal more shocking challenges the astronomy world is facing, let's rewind to how lunar exploration all began. Who really was the first person on the moon, and what were the succeeding attempts by other astronauts? Let's find out. The US government created NASA. It stands for the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. This happened in 1958. NASA got interested in the moon during the space race with the Soviet Union. Everyone wanted to see who could explore space better. The Soviet Union sent the first satellite, Sputnik, into space. This made the US want to do cool space stuff too. NASA decided to aim for the moon. They started with the Mercury and Gemini missions, learning how to send people into space. Then came the Apollo missions, where NASA sent astronauts to the moon. It was a big deal and made history. They even planted the US flag on the moon's surface. The Apollo program was NASA's way of saying, look, we can reach the moon. The Apollo 11 mission was a significant achievement for the United States. It was the first time people landed on the moon on July 20th, 1969. But before that, a heartbreaking tragedy occurred on January 27, 1967. A flash fire happened during a test, and astronauts Gus Grissom, Ed White, and Roger Chaffee met their untimely death. From 1969 to 1972, the United States achieved 6 crewed moon landings, showing its space exploration skills. There were also uncrewed lunar landings, but there was a break in soft landings from August 22, 1976 to December 14, 2013. The United States was the only country to have successfully crewed moon missions, and the last time they left the moon was in December 1972. Until January 3, 2019, astronauts mostly landed on the moon's near side. China's Chang'e 4 changed this by landing on the far side. 6 space agencies, Intercosmos, NASA, CNSA, ISRO, JAXA, and the European Space Agency, contributed to lunar missions, each with different success levels. Private missions from Israel and Japan also added to lunar exploration. Only the Soviet Union's Intercosmos, the United States' NASA, China's CNSA, and India's ISRO achieved soft landings on the moon. In 1959, the Soviet Union's Luna 2 had the first hard moon landing, intentionally crashing into the moon at high speeds, something later matched by the US with Ranger 4 in 1962. In recent space exploration, some lunar orbiters intentionally crash-landed when they finished their missions. Japan's lunar orbiter Haiten did this on April 10, 1993. The European Space Agency also made its orbiter SMART 1 crash on September 3, 2006. India's Moon Impact Probe, part of the Indian Space Research Organization, did a controlled crash on November 14, 2008. China's Chang'e 1, a lunar orbiter, intentionally crashed on March 1, 2009. You'd think it's a competition of who can outbest who, and not making humanity make its positive mark on the moon. After these many crash landings, some space agencies started using special rockets to land softly on the moon, to respect science and the purpose of lunar exploration. The Soviet Union did the first soft landings and took pictures with Luna 9 and Luna 13 in 1966. The United States, with the Surveyor program, did 5 soft landings. China's Chang'e program has also landed on the moon 3 times since 2013, bringing back soil samples and doing the first landing on the moon's far side. The Soviet Union did something significant in space exploration on September 24, 1970. They successfully returned the first unmanned lunar soil sample in the Luna 16 mission. This showed how skilled the Soviets were during the space race. Building on this, Luna 17, launched in 1970, became the first successful crewless lunar rover mission, adding to the list of lunar exploration accomplishments. China joined lunar exploration on January 3, 2019, with the Chang'e 4 mission. It made the first uncrewed soft landing on the moon's far side. This was a big step, exploring areas never touched before. Chang'e 4's success showed that China is getting better at space exploration. Apparently, things were going well until, unfortunately, 2 groups, Space IL from Israel with their Bereshit spacecraft and Japan's space team with Hakuto R Mission 1, tried to land on the moon softly but experienced setbacks. These attempts show that exploring the moon is difficult and risky, highlighting how challenging it is to go beyond Earth. India joined lunar exploration on August 23, 2023, when the Indian Space Research Organization successfully softly landed its Chandrayaan-3 module at the lunar South Pole. This achievement made India the 4th country to softly land an unmanned module on the moon, joining other countries in exploring the moon. Basically, the backstory of exploring the moon totals 12 men who have landed there during the Apollo missions. NASA started these missions, and U.S. pilot astronauts flew lunar modules for 41 months. It all began on July 20, 1969, with the famous Apollo 11 mission led by Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. The Apollo program finished on December 14, 1972, with Apollo 17, where Gene Cernan was the last to step off the moon. In the later Apollo lunar missions, astronauts had a drivable lunar rover called the Lunar Roving Vehicle, making it easier for them to move around on the moon. The entire historical context of our lunar exploration includes these significant events, showcasing human achievement in space. Now, back to Apollo's current challenges. You might be wondering, what are the other challenges beyond politics? Returning to the moon is no simple feat, and it's not just the politics and budget constraints of NASA that have kept us away. The moon has existed for 4.5 billion years and has created challenges of its own to keep us away from exploring it. Its surface has craters and boulders, making landings dangerous. The United States government spent a lot of money, equivalent to tens of billions today, to send satellites to the moon. These satellites mapped the moon and helped plan Apollo landing sites. But the real issue is the moon dust created by the impact of countless meteorites over time. You might be wondering how mere dust could cause such a big issue. Well, the moon dust is strangely attracted to astronauts' suits, vehicles, and spacecraft, completely covering them during the Apollo missions. Scientists were worried about this fine powder, so they kept astronauts in quarantine for 2 weeks after landing on the moon. In 2022, a NASA study talked about the challenges caused by lunar regolith, which is another term for moon dust. Peggy Whitson, an astronaut with a lot of space experience, mentioned the issues with moon dust during the Apollo missions. The dust caused some problems, and mission planners had to deal with it as they worked toward exploring the moon. This dust was not just a minor issue. It was a significant factor affecting the missions. Living on the moon is challenging because it faces sunlight and deadly solar radiation. The moon doesn't have a thick atmosphere, so it's exposed to the sun's harsh rays. For about 14 days, the side facing Earth gets really hot under direct sunlight. This is a problem because there's no atmospheric protection from solar radiation. After that, the next 14 days are total darkness, and temperatures drop below -200 degrees Fahrenheit. This makes the moon's surface one of the coldest in the solar system. NASA knows the moon is harsh, so they're working on solutions. They're developing a fission power system to provide electricity during the long lunar nights. This technology could also work on other planets like Mars. Even though living on the moon is hard, it's a great place to learn how to live beyond Earth. NASA is working on making special equipment that can handle the moon's conditions and eliminate the astronauts' discomfort. They're designing spacesuits and rovers that can resist dust and sunlight. However, we're not sure if these will be ready for launch. Reed Wiseman, who is leading the Artemis II mission, talked about how exploring the moon is very challenging. Astronauts are also worried about NASA's workforce getting older. Fewer young people are interested in space careers, and more want to be YouTube stars. This shift was revealed in polls among American kids in 2019. Harrison Schmitt, an astronaut from Apollo 17, thinks it's important to get young people involved in space exploration. He says they're crucial for the future. NASA's workforce is getting older, with around 14% being over 40 years old, making it a challenge for the future of space exploration. From observations, genuine excitement in space exploration comes from a diverse mix of pioneers, but it is the vibrancy of the Gen Z generation that has taken center stage. When teenagers and 20-year-olds lead programs, they bring a lively energy to the effort. Take Elon Musk, for example. He landed a rocket booster with his company, celebrating triumphantly. The scene is full of shouts, screams, and jumps, showing the spirit of youthful creativity. Astronaut Jeffrey Hoffman calls this a generation of billionaires who love space. Visionaries like Musk drive space exploration into new territories. Hoffman highlighted the vital role these space enthusiasts play in innovating during a 2018 discussion. He emphasized that the changes in spaceflight over the last decade owe a lot to these non-traditional players who bring fresh ideas and energy. The change from usual space players like NASA, Boeing, and Lockheed has created a place where new ideas are supported and needed. Companies like Elon Musk's SpaceX and Jeff Bezos's Blue Origin are perfect examples of private businesses trying new things in space. They're not sticking to the usual ways. Instead, they're pushing limits and questioning how things are done. This new era in spaceflight is happening because they are determined to find better ways and wish to spend less money. The competition and push for doing things better in these private companies have caused progress that might have been slower with more traditional methods. This shows that private companies bring fresh ideas and energy to space exploration. Traveling beyond the moon into space requires better ways of getting there. Right now, our space travel is like using a horse and buggy, showing the need for new and groundbreaking ideas in how we move in space. We realize our current abilities aren't enough for exploring faraway places. Astronauts and people with big ideas understand that our present technologies have limits. To reach distant parts of the universe, we must find new ways to travel. Many astronauts want to go back to the moon, and this matches with plans from visionaries like Jeff Bezos. Bezos dreams of a future where the moon is a starting point for humans to explore space. He suggests building the first moon base using Blue Origin's New Glenn rocket system, moving heavy industry from Earth to the moon. In this future, Earth is a place for homes and light industry, while the moon becomes a step for further exploration. Elon Musk is a big part of changing how we explore space with SpaceX's Starship launch system. He wants to make visiting the moon a regular thing using Starship. Even though SpaceX had a problem in April, where the rocket went off course and broke, Musk stays determined to overcome issues. Astronauts know setbacks happen, but they believe in the goal of going back to the moon and then to Mars. Jim Lovell, a retired NASA astronaut, is 95 years old and sure that future missions will succeed. After being part of Apollo 8 and Apollo 13, he is confident. The question isn't if we'll achieve these goals, but when, and the hope to explore new frontiers remains fiercely alive. Thanks for watching another episode of Beyond Discovery. While you're still here, click on the other videos you see on your screen right now.